Welcome back to Jack in the Booth, a web series about sports broadcasting. I'm Jack McShane. Now our guest this week is Keith Irizarry. Keith can be heard on various networks including MLB, NHL, and CBS Sports Network. Now he's also one of the coordinators for the Hofstra Sports Journalism Program, and coming up you'll hear how they made the transition from in-person to online classes, and also how Keith was able to fulfill his childhood dream during the pandemic. But first, here's his take on the post-COVID sports world.
Post-COVID, like this will impact the media because a lot of people talk about how it's going to impact players and coming back, but I'm curious to hear what you think, how it's going to impact media, with people doing play-by-play, whether or not they're going to be able to go on the road or people going into locker rooms, etc.
I think it's going to be a major effect. I mean, I think that when you look at things based off of the world right now, like we don't know when are we going to be allowed to, hug another person? When do we feel comfortable being in the same room with somebody? I mean, we have those issues. Some people don't know, can I be near my grandmother or my mom or my friend? Like what's okay? So with all that being said, and without knowing what other people have done during this, I think there's going to be a major effect on the locker room aspect you mentioned, play-by-play, which, I've actually done play-by-play off of TV screens of games from out of country. I think that some play-by-play announcers are now going to have to do that more often. And I even so much as with the NBA, with this now rumor about, these reporters are also going to have to be in the bubble. We're seeing with boxing, the reporters are in a Vegas bubble right now too. So there's going to be a lot of fallout from COVID-19 on how it affects our industry.
Now, I'm just curious what your take is on, like you mentioned, with some of the players and, having issues coming back. Do you think it's, for the MLB, for example, the issue seems to be money. Now, do you think it's kind of selfish the way they think that? Or is it, right for them to be like, I want my money? Or because a lot of times it's the fans want just sports back. They don't care about the money aspect.
So that's where, I'm always the odd, if we're going to take off my broadcasting hat, I'm going to be a fan. I'm always the odd fan on this one. I think I do understand that sports are actually a business, and I can remove myself from that. Yeah, the fan in me, I want 162 games. Okay, can't give me that. Give me 118 games. All right, you can't even give me 100. The fan in me wants that, and obviously the broadcaster in me because it means more work for me. But, the human in me, I understand there's a business aspect to it, so I can't sit here and say that these players should take less or the owners should take less. I'm not in those rooms. I don't know what those arguments and debates are for. Most likely it's about money, and I get it. Money is important.
Yeah, money is definitely important, especially in the world of sports. Now, I noticed with the Hofstra Sports Journalism Program, which I was a part of a couple of years ago, that you guys have continued to give out classes during the coronavirus period, which is obviously looks like it's been pretty important for you. Now, how has that been different? And do you think, what is the importance of making sure that these kids aren't at a disadvantage taking a class online as opposed to being in person? Because with technology, it makes this stuff a little bit easier, but it's probably still tough, right?
So at the beginning, I was very leery of this. When Mike Chacina and I were talking about this, and Kevin Dexter and I were talking about this, and then Dan Severino and some of our other instructors as well, we were discussing it and trying to come up with the game plan. We're all right, let's do a few of these just meets with the kids, see how it goes, have conversations. And then we threw out a few classes, and we're getting more enrollment per class than we were getting for in-person. We're starting a TV sports reporting camp, a class. Mm-hmm. We have 4 kids from California, 2 from Massachusetts. It's 3 from New York, 3 from New Jersey, 1 from Florida, all in this one TV sports reporting class in which Vinny Micucci is going to be teaching with me on day 1 of that class. And I'm going to shoot a TV sports reporting stand-up, in my yard, whatever it is, something like that, to show them what a stand-up would be. And then he will shoot one as well. And that'll be part of the lesson parts, in which we'll share the screen. You see what we do. We go over a lesson, and then they will have to write their own stand-ups, go into their own yard, front yard, whatever it is, and they will shoot it, basically on their laptop, whatever. I'll record it on my end. And then for class number 2, we drag that in, and we do editing and stuff like that. So it's actually worked out amazing.
Yeah, because that's something I would never have thought of, because I guess with the kind of disadvantage of having it in person is that you need people to be there, and most of the time it's just people from the Long Island area. But now that it's online, you could have people from all over the country, listening into a great program. I never really thought of that.
Yeah, we have one kid, Sean, who's from California that has now been taking classes with us since April. And now he's become friends with this one kid, Jesse, who's from Long Island. Like,
right.
They're buddies. They're talking about doing a podcast together.
It's just the connections you make from people from all over the country.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's the big benefit for them.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Something that I was actually interested in wondering about is, has your advice changed for what you give people from, like, let's say 5 years ago, like if you were to tell me something, than it is to someone now entering the industry? Or has it just been the same thing? Like, this is how you get into the industry?
I don't think my advice has changed that much. I feel like I consistently tell people that early on in your career, take whatever work you can get. Don't make the money be the big issue for you. Get the experience, get the reps. I remember, I know I've said this to you. I know Nick Walters is another student that I've said this to as well. I believe he was in the camps the same time as you.
Yes.
You're going to get a lot more failure than success. You're going to get rejections. You're going to be applying for jobs. You're going to think you're going to get it. You're like, oh my God, I'm so talented. Why wouldn't I get this? And then you're not. But when those successes happen, it made it even sweeter. So I don't think my advice has changed that much. Even the whole moving out of state thing, luckily I never have had to move out of state. I've stayed in New York my entire career. Some people prefer to move around, just like some people prefer to go away to college than stay home. So for that, it's kind of preference.
Now, I also noticed that on Instagram, you're doing this new game show called The Virtual Ring. So can you tell me a little bit about that and how you even came up with that idea?
Dude, this is like my passion project. All right, so I think you know my story. I was not planning on being a broadcaster when I was a kid. I actually, once I realized baseball and basketball, it wasn't going to happen for me being in the majors or the NBA, I decided I want money. So I went to Hofstra and I was going to be a lawyer. I went pre-law, changed my major after meeting the Dean of Communications, Dean Drummer, when she introduced me to the radio station. I took the training course all through that path, and I changed my major. That being said, ever since I'm a kid, I have always dreamt of being a game show host. It has been everything. Press Your Luck was one of my favorite shows as a kid. I watched game shows more than I watched cartoons, right? So with this pandemic, I'm at home and it affords me the opportunity to branch out and just be extra creative, right? So I was coming up with this idea, how could I do some sort of game show? So I kicked around some ideas with names. I came up with the virtual ring, and buddy of mine, unfortunately, he just got, furloughed from one of his jobs. He's a producer. He had a lot of free time, and, hopefully we can launch this into either something else, or I can help him get a job somewhere else. Also, he's helping me with production. 2 Hofstra students that just graduated are helping me with research, Patrick and Sage, and luckily, I have a lot of connections in the industry, so I've been able to get some really cool guests on the program, actors, musicians, former sports stars, you got sportscasters, so it's been awesome, and I literally launched it from my den in front of my wall unit.
How easy is that with technology?
It's so cool.
And you're planning on continuing, right, when everything
Yes.
comes back to normal?
Yeah, I already, I don't know when this is going to air, but, I have a few more episodes already lined up. My next 4 episodes are lined up that I'm recording. I got 2 more that I'm taping this week, another one the following week, another one after that. So
yeah,
I'm going to keep doing it. Say again?
It's trivia, right?
Yeah.
One
So it's
mono-y-mono
trivia.
kind of deal.
Yeah, it's trivia meets pop culture. I mess with people a little bit. If I know you and I know something that you're interested in that's not sports related, I might give you a virtual list on that. So let's say, Jack, you were a big WWE fan. I don't know if you are, but let's say you were, but you're actually a play-by-play announcer for whatever team you are. I have you on my show. I may now give you a top 10 list for WWE just for fun, and you're going to laugh and have fun with it. Usually it's people who are friends with each other. And I have a little sneak peek. I have a dad and a son coming on. Both of them are pretty darn famous. The dad you 100% know from television world. So that's coming up pretty soon.
Thanks to Keith Irizarry for joining me on this week's edition of Jack in the Booth. You can hear Keith talk sports on MLB and NHL Network, as well as his game show on his Instagram at keith.irizarry. Thanks for watching. I'm Jack McShane.